So I wanted to go live, but I'm just gonna have to record a video. It's just easier to do. I'm outside. I have to shut my phone off so I don't get messages, and then, you know, I have to make it nice and clear, so it can be really hard sometimes to go live, especially with 4 kids and a crazy schedule. But I wanted to make sure that I did my post for this week. This week has been a roller coaster of a ride, and I have to say that I knew at the end of December that January would be very powerful. I was already feeling it at the end of December. So what happens is sometimes I go through these shifts where this energy in the cosmos is kind of too much for me to handle, and I shut down. It's too much for me to deal with everything, because how it works is it's more like it heightens all my gifts. So I get to the point where I'm just like hypersensitive to my environment. I'm hypersensitive to everything, even the pets in my house, the animals, everything. So it becomes really hard for me to be on these like lives, to be doing videos, to even be talking to people sometimes. So I stay, you know, I try to stay home. I try to do other things, like I clean the house, I caught up on chores, I rested a little bit, which is nice. But I'm not really a person who likes to rest and do nothing. I'm always busy. So sometimes my guides even kind of knock me down and are like, you're going to have to take time off. You're going to have to rest. This is going to be a lot for you. And they warn me. So thankfully, I've learned to take hints from my guides or messages from my guides a lot better now than I used to. And I kind of just slow down a little bit and let the shift kind of ride over. And like I say, I let it settle. Because what happens is when we're getting all of this information, it takes a long time for our brain to process it, our soul information, or these downloads as they're called to some people. So it takes a while. You might feel this really intense energy and not really know what it is. And most of the time people are just like, oh, I'm in such a good mood. I'm in such a good mood. And then like the next day, it's just like, boom, you know, they're finally feeling better. But all these messages hit them all at once. And they're just like, oh, that's what all that was. So it takes a while to settle. And it's more like a reprogramming. Every time I get new information, they actually have to program the information into my soul and physical body. Now, I'll explain this more because this is really important to understand. Gifts. Gifts and ego. This is a big one that keeps coming up in my mind, in my own mind, and looking around and seeing a lot of gifted people. Now, soul gifts. We are all born with what I call soul gifts or soul tools. They make us incredibly unique. Everybody's born at a different time in a different spark of the cosmos during whatever it is, and that makes our souls incredibly unique. So we all have specific tools and ways of functioning here on Earth. Now, when we are born, we evolve those tools through experience, whether that experience be soul level experience or whether that experience be physical experience. We evolve our gifts through experience. That's the way they mature. That's the way they strengthen. That's the way we can use them in our physical body. Now, even if somebody had absolutely no gifts, which I've never seen, even if somebody had, well, I have seen that actually, I'll take it back. I've seen somebody currently have no gifts because they have not gotten to the point where they've begun evolving their spiritual gifts, and that would come in a future life. So we could talk about their future life goals. Sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it's not. Sometimes your future life goals need preparation and practice. Sometimes we have to do work before we get there. So if I would see somebody with no gifts at the current state in their current life, we can still do work to prepare for gifts, to make us more susceptible to source, to make us more susceptible to our soul. And that is something that I want to point out. Somebody with no gifts can still connect to their higher self. And that in itself can be an incredibly beautiful thing. Now, a common misconception that most people have is that when you connect to your soul, you are all-knowing. That's not true. When we connect to our soul, we connect to our soul memory. So our soul memory might include, you know, it has, I call it soul database. So every soul has a database of information from their experiences, their incarnations, their travels, their soul family, their soul group, their location, whatever it is. It's very specific to them. So when you get a lot of people who might be saying something that doesn't really resonate with you, who might be saying terms that don't really click with you, it's because they're talking about their soul group. And then we get this idea of ego, because they can't see beyond their soul group. Most people can't see beyond their soul group because that's your soul. That's your soul connection. Your soul is giving you information based on you. And that's your soul group. Now, there are billions, maybe even trillions of soul groups around. So this is the issue that we have going on in our society today. We have all this conflicting information, and it kind of just keeps butting, and everybody thinks they're right, and everybody thinks they have all the answers, and they just keep fighting about it. And in a way, this is what I always like to say: humans create a lot of categories, and categories are just a form of separation. So when somebody's like throwing and forcing their soul group knowledge on everybody else, being like, you have to listen because this must be true, and those other people are different soul groups, they feel ostracized, they feel left out, doesn't click, then they lose hope in the spiritual community, then we start to separate more and more and more. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I try to come out, and that's why I try to talk as much as I can about different soul groups, different energies, you know, different gods. We're all working for the same goal, but the separation comes when we don't understand that we are currently on different paths, and that is okay. Now, this idea comes with this idea of ego. A lot of people who have gifts don't see gifts. I myself have looked all over the place for somebody to tell me what my gifts were until I realized that that was one of my gifts. So I had a hard time, and let me tell you, with the internet these days, it should be easier to do because I could find anything on the internet. Whether or not it's accurate, I'm just saying at that time I was willing to spend anything on somebody who could help me find what my gifts were, because I knew there was something going on that I couldn't explain. So it's a rare gift. And the reason why I have that gift is because it's my job to train people. It's one of my jobs I take very seriously. My Akashic reports remove blocks to our soul. They help us heal. They help us work to our fullest potential in this life, and they help us by removing our blocks. We can use our gifts better, so they definitely help with our gifts too. And then I read the gifts, and then I unlock gifts, and I activate gifts. Now some people will generalize gifts into a lump, which I had one reading actually when I was maybe like 9 years ago, where somebody pretty much said I had everything, but they lumped it into the clear, it's actually on Wikipedia, I'll add the link below, I know clairvoyance is one of them, but there's all the senses essentially, and it's got the clairaudience, clairvoyance, clair whatever, clear knowing, and essentially they just said I had all of them. But this isn't even true. I mean, I do have a lot of gifts, but that's not really true because they're all lumped up and very generalized. Like I mention to people all the time, obviously psychics and mediums have gifts. Their gifts are very different. Somebody can be only a psychic, somebody can be only a medium, somebody can be both psychic and medium. Sometimes our gifts function more under shaman or Sha woman, I like to call it, categories. Sometimes our gifts are just healing gifts. So you could have a psychic ability to see damage and pain in others and then remove that damage and pain. So it really depends, that even our psychic and medium gifts can be so unique. So to really call somebody just a psychic leaves a lot in question. And that's actually one of the issues I had picking my business name, because I know for a fact that, you know, I'm not just a psychic, I'm not just a medium, I have a lot of other gifts. I'm a healer, I have shaman guides that teach me and train me. I use a lot of their skills when I heal people. I obviously am an Akashic Realm channeler. So there's a lot of names for what I do, essentially. Lots and lots and lots of names. So it was very, very hard to choose a name that suits me well. But what I found out is I've been watching a lot of videos lately, because honestly, my whole life I have never really been into this. I've never really been into, I did used to love watching mediums on TV. I didn't know anything about them. I studied no modalities. I hated TV. Mediums were the only things I would watch. And I just thought it was so beautiful that you could connect somebody even after they were gone. The idea of the afterlife, the idea of there being a soul fascinated me more than any TV. And I think I was like 7. So it was definitely a weird obsession, but now I understand why. So when you connect to these, anyways, when I read these people and when I watch these videos, it kind of brings me back a little bit, because I watch people, and I'm not criticizing anybody at all, but people seem to, they treat their gifts as if their gifts are incredibly unique. And we all have different gifts that most people aren't even aware of. So it kind of puts in this idea of ego, right? If we think that this one gift is very unique and we don't understand other people's gifts, then we may put ourselves in a position where we feel like we are better than others, or feel like we know more than others. And my answer to that is, our souls are incredibly unique. Your gift system is made specifically for you, by your soul group, by your soul birth, by your experience, and it's something you should fully embrace, whatever that be for you. Now, if you go try being just like somebody else, you're going to fail every time, because you were not built like somebody else. You were built like you. And being the best version of yourself, being successful, being powerful, understanding your gifts, removing your blocks, has to do with really, really, really utilizing your soul tools, your specific soul tools. And one of the things that I mean by some people are gifted and don't even know they're gifted, a lot of people actually in this whole world are gifted and don't even know they're gifted, and I have to explain this to people all the time. The gift of music. Being a musician is a soul gift. It is a different, it's almost like another language. It's a language of communication with vibrational tones. And usually people who are musicians are actually from similar soul groups. So it's like they were born that way with that kind of talent. And usually they're musicians in way more than one life. It's a gift that carries with them life after life after life, because it's a part of their soul. So it's something they need to stay true to. Now, the gift of speaking in public, that is an actual gift. Some people are horrible at speaking. Some people can't have a conversation and be fluent. Some people stumble on their words, and actually it's one of the biggest fears and phobias is public speaking. Some people have artistry. Artists are gifted souls. We have different kinds of artists too. We have painters, or we have creators, or we have architects. They're all different gifts that actually have come through in readings. Design is a soul gift, and design is so much more than what people think about it, because design is understanding the energy of things you bring into a space and making that energy work with the environment. So we don't really think of design as an energetic code, which I think is fascinating, because when I read this in somebody, I was like, that's so cool. You didn't even know you were doing that. And here you are, like, energetically reading the furniture and pieces you're bringing into a space to create a story, to create a charge, to create a foundation of space. So our house is important. It creates and establishes a certain energy that charges us or blocks us. And that's another thing that's come up in a lot of my readings too. People who have a lot of clutter in their lives actually have a lot of clutter in their energy. Your home is representative of your energy. If you have a hard time organizing and letting things go, then you're going to have a hard time organizing your energy and letting go of blocks or things that obstruct you. So again, these themes that carry forth are really amazing, and I just love to go through them and see them. And of course we have like the regular gifted people that everybody knows about. We do have psychics, we do have mediums, and we do have, I call them sensitives, but some people call them, oh, I can't even think of the word right now. When you're extra sensory, it just means your senses are heightened. Again, like clairvoyance and other things like that. And I like to point out that even mediums have different gifts and abilities depending on your other gifts. For example, you can be a medium who sees souls but hasn't yet unlocked the ability to communicate with them freely. So you could have a hard time interpreting the messages coming forward, because it's more like charades than it is like a verbal conversation or communication. They kind of just point, and you know, you can see them very clearly, but you can't communicate them with them very well. So what I always tell people is, never try to fill in the blanks. Never try to be something you're not. Never try to copy somebody else's abilities or somebody else's gifts, and never assume that that's the only way. You have your gifts and you need to stay true to those gifts. And to this day, if there's something that's out of my range, I'll say, you know what? I'll try to get that answer and I'll come back to you. If I can't get that answer, I don't have that answer. It's very plain and simple. I don't pretend I know everything. I know that I have my soul's knowledge, and that is what I have going for me. So that's all I have. And even then, when, you know, as an Akashic Realm channeler, there are records, even to me, who is an Akashic Realm guide, that do not come through. This has only ever happened once, but and it was because I was personally involved in the situation, so records were blocked. And a lot of psychic mediums actually get this, where they say you're not supposed to read for your family or people you know very closely, like, you know, best friends for your whole life or your parents, because what happens is you are too biased. We're too emotionally involved. You can't shut off your emotions. For my kids even, my kids always ask me, well, read my future, and I always tell them, I'm just like, you know what, I would never do that, because I am too emotionally involved in your life. And even if I heard something I didn't want to hear, I'm not going to be a proper outlet for that. So I just don't go there, because I don't want to be biased. And that is something, I take my accuracy very seriously. I take my work very seriously. My husband even says it. I'm addicted to my spiritual evolution. This whole week was really difficult for me, and every single day I sat, I meditated, I took information, I tried to clear my energy, I tried to refocus, and that's just how I am. I don't stop what I'm doing. I don't stop my evolution. I'm always confronting myself, always digging deeper, always looking for my blocks, always trying to be the best version of myself, or better than I was yesterday, because I am really set on my mission and my goals. You know, I really want to make change. I really want to open my nonprofit. I really want to do worldwide humanitarian effort. Like, I really, really, really want to do it. So that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of evolution. It takes a lot of getting out there. It takes a lot of confronting things that are blocking you or bothering you. It takes a lot of growth. And so when we talk about the gifts, this is another thing that I keep bringing up. The internet is flooded with information that is really difficult, because it's not always accurate. But we have to understand that if you have only your soul's knowledge, and honestly, so many people think that we're in that when they are in that place, that soul connection, first of all, most people are very disconnected from their soul. Period. We just are as humans. It's a human condition. We are born and we have a very intense disconnection to our soul, because this atmosphere is so thick that it's very, very hard, even compared to other planets or incarnations. Earth is just a very dense atmosphere. It's just the way gravity works here, and we're not used to that kind of thing. It would be considered a more difficult life or difficult incarnation to take on. So, that being said, it is very hard to connect to your soul when you're here on Earth. So we do have a lot of disconnection from our physical body to our soul. Our soul is a part of our physical being, yes, but do we hear it all the time? No. Do we listen to it all the time? No. Do we access its knowledge all the time? No. That is something we train ourselves to do through, like I said, our reprogramming, our many lives. Each life that we have is like a new layer of programs. So it's like a new program added, a new program added. So we have to slowly layer those things so that we can make our connection to Earth stronger. And that's what makes our gifts stronger. So like I said, experience builds our energy, experience builds our gifts. So when I work with people, I do their first Akashic Report. Akashic Report 1 is actually a modality in which I'm certified, and it's called Soul Realignment, and it is all Andrea Hess's process. She's an Akashic Realm channeler, and she created a process to find soul origins. Now, before I started this, I was just picking up random information. I was picking up random locations. I was reading people, and like, I wasn't really looking for their soul origins, but it would come up every once in a while. We just talk about it. We talk to their guides. We bring their guides up. We talk about where their guides are from and what kind of role their guides play. So it was kind of like a mashup of all 3 readings, but it wasn't very structured. So these are people who came to me when I first opened my business, which was, you know, August area. And or even before, I did my work part-time at nights. So anybody who came to me before might have had the same kind of reading. That was kind of, it had all these great information, but it was definitely like a combination of all 3 reports, and I just took whatever information was given to me. Now I know what to expect, so I've created a system where I don't miss any details or miss any things, because I found that there's a lot more information to be found. So I had to structure it better, and I had to create more reports, and I had to make the process even more expansive, which I'm starting to feel like I need to do even more of. I need to add more reports to the Akashic system, because there's just so much that comes through. And people ask me all the time, they're like, well, what are they? And I put as much as I can online. The problem is that I'm dealing with Wix program, so I'm not a website creator. So my website's not perfect. I'm still just beginning. I'm doing this out of my house. Like I said, out of my car. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4 kids. So all of my reports, all of my business is done while I'm shuffling the kids around, while I'm going to extracurricular activities, while I'm getting them ready for school in the morning. When I get a break and have to run to the car, that's when I do my work. So all of this is very much done by me. I'm a one lady team. And so it is a lot for me to take on. And like I said, my page is my own. I made it myself. I have to do a lot of these things my own. Even my book. I am hoping to eventually revise the book and hire a professional editor and do professional marketing. But as for now, I really needed it for my class, and I really needed it for my clients who are requesting the book. So the book is out, and I know that it's not absolutely perfect or written in, you know, the most eloquent writing, but I'm not really a writer. I'm just trying to get my information out there to share it with as many people as I can, because I think that's what's really important. I think what's important is that we don't obsess over the idea of perfection, but that we share knowledge when we have knowledge. Because like I keep saying, there's so much out there that just, it really ostracizes us. It makes us feel like we are alone, or like we are not good enough, or like we're comparing ourselves to others. So I really wanted to share that information that would talk about it. So, I mean, and I talk about all this in there too. I talk about soul family, soul birth, soul purpose. I talk about chakras and their gifts and where they would hang out, essentially, in your chakras. Not every soul has chakras. I can still read them. They're structured a little differently, so the reports go a little bit differently, but they don't have chakras. So we don't use the chakras for those reports. And I thought that was really interesting when I found that out too. So Akashic Report 1, which is the soul realignment segment that I'm certified in, is all by itself, and I have to follow very specific rules for my certification there, and I don't do anything else attached to that report. It talks about your soul birth, and it's really interesting, because anybody can essentially get certified through the program. But like, I gave my husband the book and he was like, no way, I can't do this. It is so easy for me because it's all my gifts. So it's kind of like a cheat. I'm just very good at it because I see all these, I see past lives, I see blocks, I see energy, I see chakras, I see stories. You know, I'm psychic medium and I see souls. So I get all this information without really using essentially the system she created 100%. I just use my own gifts and her structure. So it's super easy for me. I can't imagine how anybody else does it, honestly, because I feel like it wouldn't be as accurate. I'm not sure. I've even had people contact me from her website who have done it themselves and were like, I need somebody else to do it. It's not coming out right. You know, I don't understand it. And then I've redone their reports for them and they love them. So this report talks about soul origin, soul birth. It talks about deep soul damage. Now, when I talk about the chakras in some people's reports, a lot of people who are in the holistic community will be like, well, my chakras are fine. I do chakra work daily. And I'm just like, you can do chakra work every single day. But our chakras have hundreds of layers. If you are addressing your surface layer, you're not even touching the deep-rooted blocks and obstructions. You're not even going there. If you can't see past lives, then you can't see the past lives obstructing you. So you can't see that really intense deep soul damage. So you might feel good in your day-to-day, but the problem is that Your chakras shouldn't have to keep being realigned like that every week or every day. The reason why they keep reversing or being overactive or shutting down completely or being stagnant is because there's something deeper. There is a deep, deep obstruction that needs removing. And then that's when we find healing. That's when we find a really intense change. That's just a different feeling completely. I don't know how I ever functioned without having a clear chakra system, honestly. Like, when I look back at my life, I think about all the things that would have been easier to digest or interpret or deal with physically if I had just been open, if I had just been working through my chakras, if I had been digesting energy appropriately, if I had not been picking up people's emotions when I shouldn't have been, you know. I think about all that stuff. So report 2, in report 1, we would deal with that really intense chakra damage. That chakra damage, the deep soul damage. Sometimes we even have aura damage in soul report 1. Aura damage is the energetic, you know, it's our aura. It's like just our bubble energy. It surrounds our soul, our body, our physical body, and we could find clouds, debris, rips and tears. Those are way more aggressive. They happen during really, really aggressive past lives. These are the really traumatic ones. And people tell me that all the time too. They're like, why do I only hear about my bad past lives? And I was like, well, because it's a healing. If we're healing, then we're going to talk about the things that obstruct us. And the things that don't obstruct us, the things that obstruct us are usually not like unicorns and bunnies. Usually they're really intense past life traumas. And that's what we hear about. You know, we have an hour together, 2 hours together. Then I'm going to focus on the obstructions. I'm not going to go around and like just talk about the good times and the fun lives, because that's not really our mission. Our mission is healing. Same thing when I go through the chakras. Like, a lot of people are like, well, isn't there anything good? And I'm just like, well, I thought we were healing. Like, this is a healing report, you know? If you want to report for fun, you got to note that it's for fun, because if I get very serious, I get busy, and I'm going to find what we need to heal and work on. Because what I do is, when I go over your report, I'm healing the whole time. I'm doing energetic work. I'm resewing the chakras. I'm fixing, repairing, sometimes even replacing chakras. And yes, that can be done. It's part of the soul level work. And even more fascinating, that I still haven't figured out really, is that I've had souls come to me with soul level damage to find healing with me here, which I think is really strange, and I still haven't figured out why. Because they feel like there should be plenty of healing on the other side where they're from. I just spit, sorry. And I still haven't figured out why they would come to me here. That's something that's kind of like I've had people, and then I've also had people specifically incarnate to meet me to find physical healing of an issue that's been going on hundreds of years. Now that one's even weirder too, because I still haven't figured out why. I mean, there's got to be somebody else or some other way to find healing. I think that's like a really aggressive route to take. Like, you know, let me go incarnate and meet up with you, and then you can deal with it, and then I'll just be on my merry way. I just think it's kind of crazy, kind of like I mean, that they do have that quote, that beautiful quote comes to mind: when you seek healing, you find your healer. So whatever it is. Report 2, and I have to talk about that too, soul level jobs. We do have soul level jobs. We don't just hang out on the other side and do nothing. We have so many amazing, tremendous things that we do, and sometimes those soul level jobs will come forward as physical jobs to our current existence. For example, my soul level job. I am actually an Akashic Realm guide, or an Akashic Realm keeper. I work with the files, I work with the information, I collect information through the cosmos or through the universe or the multiverse, and I store and protect that information. That's why I have the information that I do here on Earth, because I can tap into my soul knowledge, and my soul knows all of that. So I have that with me. That is how I have my gifts. My soul level job has made its way into my physical experience, and many times our soul level jobs do that. For example, I met this person who was an artist, but their artistry was so beautiful. It was actually a representation of home. Their job was to bring down home so that people who were from that soul, that planet that had been destroyed, could now reflect and see a part of home. And that was just their gift. And I thought it was a really beautiful thing, to be able to create something that would make so many people feel at home. And so report 2, I'm gonna have to turn on my car, I'm getting chilly, I'm outside, it's cold. Okay, so report 2 is of the physical body. Like I said, we do this in layers. So I use focuses, and like I mentioned earlier, I think I'm gonna have to add another report, because I feel like even the physical life goes into like deep trauma, and I want to do like a physical life of like today. Like, what are we doing today? What is going on today? You know, that's more of like a regular psychic reading, but I feel like it should be part of the system, because so many times people are like, yes, I have to do all of that, but then they want more. They want to know more about like what's going on in their day-to-day, their current experience, the current people in their life, how those current people play roles in their past, present, or future, whether it be past lives, whatever it is, and the ties they have to those people. So I feel like I'm going to add that report in the future, and then maybe add a report 5 too for training, because, you know, people leave report 3 with gifts and don't always really know exactly how they're supposed to implement that in their physical life, which takes practice. It does. So it's something that has to be done over time, because it's something that we have to establish in their physical life. Like, what changes do you need to make? What careers do we see working for you? What training or schools or certification would work for you? All of that is something that I'm seeing a big need for. So Akashic Report 2 is of the physical experience, and that's really of all of our obstructions in this life that's affecting this life. We talk about, so our soul level obstructions, our auras, that's like a drain to our energy. So it means that we have a very hard time healing and repairing ourselves, because we have very deep rooted blocks or tears to our energy and obstructions. So we can't, if we have an issue in our physical life, let's say we have a huge issue with relationships, but we have a tear in our aura at the 4th chakra, then obviously relationships, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much therapy you go to, no matter how much you put yourself out there, that's going to be very, very hard for you to heal. So we start with the first, then we move to the physical, and we see, are there any more obstructions to the heart? Do we have any past lives obstructing the heart? Do we have any past life experience, any people, any promises we've made to people that are no longer important to us, that we keep bringing forward with us over and over again, that are obstructing us? Or do we have any forgiveness that needs to happen, whether it be for you or others? We talk about all of that, and that's just the heart as an example. So you could imagine how intense it gets when we go through every single chakra and talk about what's obstructing us and keeping us from our full potential here in this current life. It could be pretty intense. Report 2 is actually sometimes the hardest report to swallow, because it's of our current experience. So most people can be very honest with themselves about it. Most people can say, well, yeah, I haven't made a lot of good decisions for myself. And some people have a hard time with it. And I have to, you know, my clients are amazing. They've never been disrespectful or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's really hard sometimes to hear that things need to change in our current life for us to keep evolving, or that we need to do different things, or that we need to let go of certain people, or that we need to face our shadows more, or whatever it is. Or sometimes it's just willpower. Sometimes people hate hearing that, like, how do I get skinny? And it's like, well, once we remove and heal those obstructions, you're going to have to retrain the body to be active, to be physical, to work out, to, you know, make yourself a priority, to eat better, to drink more water. And a lot of times it's like, well, I don't want to do that. And it's just like, well, it's a team, you know, it's the spiritual and the physical. We gotta team that up, and we gotta find what works, and usually that's someplace in the middle. So that's about report 2. Report 3, and this is why we do it in this order too, because I have a lot of people who come to me who just want to jump to report 3. That's all you. Whatever you want to do, your soul, your life, your body, your energy, I support you. Whatever it is, I just do my job. I do warn people though, because you could have report 3 and you could still not feel like you are able to use your gifts fully. And the reason for that being is you haven't healed any of the trauma obstructing you from your gifts. you have a lot of leaks, you're not functioning at full soul potential, you might have a lot of blocks, you might still be making a lot of bad choices for yourself. So you would get to a place at report 3 where you know what you have, but it's not actually very useful for you because you can't use the gifts appropriately. So we might still be using our gifts inappropriately, and it might even make us sicker. So I definitely warn people, and it's not like a sales tactic. I'm just too honest, you know. I don't want to be using my gifts and abilities to put somebody in a situation where they're obstructed. And sometimes I've had this come forward too. Guides will just be like, we can't tell her gifts. We have to redact them, the information for them, because it might be dangerous to her. Because if you, or him, if you have somebody who is suffering a lot or hitting a lot of trauma or in a repeated cycle or repeated block or something like that, an obstruction, you know, what we don't heal repeats. Our past lives that don't get healed and removed will continue repeating. So if we have somebody who is unhealed and now we have their gifts opened, they might be flooding themselves with all this negativity of other people and all this, and that could really be, you know, dangerous to our health. It could make us very ill. It could make us not feel good. It could ruin the way we see other people in our lives, and it could ruin our day-to-day because we haven't done the healing first. So it's report 3 for a reason, and that's why. And then of course I do past life journeying, which is just kind of walking through past lives to find any, we all have anywhere from 1 to 1,000 lives. By the time we get to 1,000 lives, we don't need to come around anymore. Hopefully we've learned all our lessons. But like I said, sometimes I get people who just need healing. They just need that final repair before they have shifted. And I don't actually get anybody who is right before their last life. So that one's interesting too. I just don't see it a lot. And these are people like, you know, who are incredibly open and who are very healed and who they really don't react a lot from their environment because they're at a place where they can see things from a different perspective, a different light. Now, we are all human. We do have incidences and situations where we react out of emotion. And, you know, in no way does that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I don't react out of emotion, because I definitely do. And I am definitely human. And I'm not saying that even a master would not react out of emotion. I'm sure they get emotional, whether it be excited or happy or scared or whatever it is. But I am saying that you heal it a lot faster when you are healed. You don't take it as personally, so you don't really let it enter your experience, so it's a lot easier to flush and move out. And which is what I'm saying, I feel like sometimes, you know, this would have helped, but you know, you earn your gifts. So so that's essentially what I wanted to talk about, gifts and how they're so misinterpreted and how it can get really caught up with some people who don't really understand or see gifts in others because they seem to think that they are like the only unique people who have them. But everybody has gifts, and how your gifts function is very unique to you, and how you use them it's like having, like I mentioned earlier, I call them gifts or soul tools. The reason why I call them soul tools is because they definitely make our day-to-day easier. When we know how we function, we're very true to ourselves. We could say, well, it's not really a thing that I do. It's not really good for me. It's not really a way that I work. We're not pushing ourselves to somebody else's standards. And this one's interesting too, because I see a lot of people who teach psychic or medium connections, but that's not going to help unless the person has that gift. It's just not going to help. And you're teaching a very general gift. You're essentially training and teaching your specific gift, but everybody's different and everybody functions differently. So if you want your clients or people to be functioning at their fullest potential, you have to be able to know what they have and how that works for them. Now, connecting to higher self, like I said, I actually have a guided meditation I created on YouTube. It was one of the first ones that I created, so it's a little bit, you know, whatever. I'm not a professional. I'm just starting, but I use it all the time. I use it with all of my clients. And I use it in my spiritual development class, and I've had people have really good results. The only time it hasn't worked is when people don't have chakras, and I found that out because I read them and they don't have chakras. They just function differently. The guided meditation takes you through your chakras, And a lot of the issue with meditation is people just assume you're supposed to sit there and do nothing and be quiet, and that's not the case. Actually, it can be kind of dangerous, in fact, I've come to realize, because what happens is people wander, and some people are astral travelers, so some people wander in the astrals and they could be anywhere, and it's actually pretty dangerous because, like I said, you never wander without intention. You never just jump in and hope for the best. My guided meditation is a systematic process to going in, getting the information you need, and then being able to leave. Now, somebody who doesn't have this kind of training can actually put themselves in danger. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, no, because, and the truth is that, first of all, my guides have told me that I was putting myself in danger because I didn't know any better. I had just started, you know, and that's obviously we have to learn through experience, but I'm hoping that I can help somebody else out there who, you know, is just starting. The problem is that if we're just opening without a process or a system, or without creating energetic bridges to the places we should be and not the places we shouldn't be, or if we aren't setting barriers or boundaries, we're essentially just going into wherever. And if you're going into wherever, there are a lot of energies and places and beings that you shouldn't be around because they can obstruct us. They actually can come in through the portals we create. For example, even with my training and process, I've had some of my students open up and then accidentally let in, you know, a shadow being or a lower level energy, and then we had to kind of wash those out during practice. And that's the reason why we practice, so that people can practice with me around and I can help them clear anything that goes down, and we can learn from the experience, and then now they know to set those boundaries better and create better pathways. And the way that this works is, you know, it's the same as Earth if we think about it. You don't just kind of wander at midnight into everybody's house and door, right? We don't just walk up and down the street and open every single door and are like, hey, what's up? Can I come in and wander and look at stuff? No, you'll probably get the police called on you. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit creepy. You'll probably get aggressive behavior. Yes, because you're getting, you know, you're kind of just intruding in people's space. You're intruding in people's homes, in their dimensions, in their boundaries, but also you're leaving open all these doors. So what happens is if you turn around, you get all these neighbors walking out their doors yelling at you, get out of my space, get out of my space. So it's exactly the same thing. When we go around and we're kind of astral traveling or meditating without a purpose, we can open up our energy to a lot of these, we open up all these doors, and essentially what comes through depends on which doors we opened. So it's very dangerous to just wander. And I always tell people, when we are done, we close our energy. You bring all your energy back in and you cleanse. You release anything you've taken in and you've removed. And even a mediumship gift. A medium who contacts souls actually has this like portal that I see above their head. And through this portal, they call in deceased relatives. And this portal, so sometimes they open that portal and they forget to close it or watch what's coming through, and people will be like, well, just burn sage, just burn Palo Santo, and it's not enough. Sage and Palo Santo doesn't actually stop souls from coming through that portal. What stops them is your knowledge of that. Your knowledge of that makes you an intuitive person who's intentionally setting barriers. You created the door, you set the barrier. You have to make it an intentional process. So that comes with what I was saying earlier, training. It's just like muscle building. The more we do it, the better we get. And it only happens through experience. So the more and more we do this, the better we get, the stronger we get, the safer we get during our connections. So it's really nice to be able to train with somebody by your side saying like, well, you missed a part, but let me help you remove this so that it's not an obstruction to your day-to-day. And it's not a scary thing. I mean, it's not like we have these horrible demons hurting people. It's not like that at all. But we do have negative energy or lower level beings, and they're kind of just like little gremlins or things that are destructive or disruptive to our current state in our home. And then in that case, we have to do like a flushing, and we have to clean the energy, and we have to send them back home and close any remaining portals and blah, 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 the whole system. So burning sage does not stop souls. I know that this is a really big thing, and people love blasting that everywhere, but it just, if I see souls, I could blow sage in their face and they're still there. So that's important to understand. It does help us charge the air and create a positive charge, and it helps us clear other negative energy, but it doesn't send an actual entity or being back home. That is a gift people have. You have to have a gift to speak to, communicate, and remove these beings. So a lot of people who use sage as a tool of recharging the air have a gift and are actually removing it other ways, and then they use the sage to recharge and cleanse the space. It's like when you move into a new house and you have a lot of stagnant energy. It takes a while to build that energy. You know, I'm a sensitive, so it's hard to tell. Like, I don't know if other people feel stagnant energy when they walk into a house, so I don't even know if that's a good example, but I do. Like, I feel the whole energy of the house when I walk in. So I know if there was a lot of aggression and fighting and abuse and trauma in that house, that it takes a lot of work to flesh out that energy before the new people feel comfortable in that space. And a lot of times that's what actually stops a house from selling. It just has all that negative charge and all that animosity and anger and negative energy. So in a situation like that, cleansing the space would be really helpful and useful. Like when you're moving and you need new space or energy. I mean, I sage and Palo Santo my house like crazy all the time. I do, because I love it. I love the smell. I love the positivity. I love the charge. But I know it does not, because I know it doesn't keep out energy, because I see them. It just helps create a better process. It's like a training system, you know. We have a system and we follow that system because we want to make sure, like, when airplanes first came out, they didn't have the guide manual, and somebody might forget to flick one switch, and then all of a sudden the plane is, you know, dysfunctional and can't fly or broken or something because they didn't do it in order. So we have a manual, we have a system, and we train the body on that system and the soul on that system, so we can create safe energetic bridges to the places we want to be and the places that will offer us the information we need while we're there. And that is something that comes with practice and with understanding your gifts and with unblocking your gifts, right? Because how we obtain energy is so different for each person. For example, this one's a beautiful one, and this is something that I'm just learning recently. Actually, I just learned that I have the ability to activate gifts. I didn't know that that's what I was doing until they told me, well, you can activate it. And I was like, have I been doing that? And they were like, yeah, you've been doing it. I was like, oh, well, didn't know that. And the way that it works is I have the ability to train and teach people on their gifts regardless of what they are, because I have to take on and download that information for them, and then I can show them and train them and be a part of the process. Because if you have somebody that doesn't understand what's going on with your body or energy, then there's no way that they're going to be able to teach you how to do it, right? You can't be a teacher not knowing what you're teaching. So you have to have that information brought down, and you have to have that gift. You have to have that ability to train that ability. So because it's one of my gifts and one of my abilities, it's like birthing a child. When you birth your child, you actually keep a code from their birth, from their soul, because your soul has to use you as a portal. So it's a beautiful thing. Just like my clients, I work with my clients, I'm a portal to their gifts. I'm a portal to their abilities and their messages and their soul groups, which is how I get information from their soul groups and everything else. And that's what I bring back to the Akashic Realm. So I'm using my soul level job and my physical job all in one, all at the same time, and it's pretty amazing. But I feel like I was going to say something about something. Well, you know what I wanted to do is, I still haven't gotten my publisher's package for the books that I ordered. I ordered a big case of publisher, you know, at a discount. But I do have one book that I got that they automatically mailed out. So this is my personal copy. I still don't have like my client package. So I wanted to give this away to somebody today who made a comment on the post. So if you ask a good question based on the information I have given you and talked about today, and I think it's, you know, thoughtful and kind and respectful, or if you are participating by sharing, not spamming anybody. I don't want anybody to be spammed. I hate spam. But if you're sharing the video for me, and if you're commenting and making thoughtful questions and, you know, being a participant, I'm going to choose through the participants in a couple days, and I'm going to mail them a copy of the book. Now, everything I talk about is in the book, obviously. This book is pretty much everything I've encountered. And I wrote it like this, you know, in between appointments, in between extracurricular activities, in between parenting, in between sleep and day. So it's kind of my work baby since I've opened up my gifts, and it has everything I know and everything I've come to contact with. So if you want a copy, then go ahead and, you know, comment or say something or post something and be a part of the discussion and share the video, and I'll go through those and I'll try to find out who I can mail it to. And I'm hoping the person is a US resident, because international shipping can be a pain in the butt. But I do have people all over the world, so I won't be choosing specifically on their location. And again, thank you for tuning in and listening and being a part of the discussion, and I can't wait to see what kind of questions you guys have below. Thank you.